Play, talk, listen. Yo, it's the Big Mahomes Show. Come on, homie, get with it. Play, talk, listen, you love it, so go repeat it. Ain't no opposition, the catalog undefeated. You listen to something different, I guarantee you deleted all facts. You wanna spell the name, gotta be all caps. You're looking for the best action, we all that. It's major ballin', we got it poppin', it's never stopping. The hottest topics, you know we all that. This is not up for debating, cause 505 been rated. We taking up to the apex, listening to the greatest. Brandon hotter than haters, for the brothers and ladies. It's the Big Mahomes Show. Sit back, play, talk, listen.
It's the Big Mahomes Show.
Welcome to the Big Mahomes Show. I'm your host, Pat Mahomes. Today, we will welcome my main man, Darren Smith, back to the Big Mahomes Show as my wingman. Welcome to the show, Big D. How you doing?
Man, look, it's just like church, man. I'm glad to be in the service with you one more time, Pat. Always a pleasure.
Well, today, I feel like we have a very interesting show for y'all. So let's get this thing started off now. We're going to start today with Major League Baseball. The Yankees and my New York Mets are still on fire and doing their thing. The Mets are leading both sides of their respective leagues, both playing outstanding baseball right now. The Yankees just got Aaron Judge under, 1-year deal for $19 million. But I guess the big question would be, will he return next year to the Yankees? What are you feeling about that, D?
You know what? It's interesting because I know there's been a lot of talk about his contract. Of course, he got $19 million. Well, he and the Yankees, they were going into arbitration and decided to meet in the middle at $19 million. It's hard for me to see a scenario where Aaron Judge leaves New York. It's just something about New York and how they like to treat their superstar players. And for him to go somewhere else, I don't see that happening. I know A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez pitched a wild contract offer for Jones's, for Aaron Judge's extension. I think he talked about $360 million. Look, if anybody can afford it, obviously it's the New York Mets. But I guess the real question is Aaron Judge, does he feel like a big-time city boy? Does he really, does he want to stay? Does he want to go? Because I think if he wants to stay, I think the Yankees will figure out a way to sign him to a long-term deal.
Well, yeah, I see you mentioned the Mets, and of course they got money. I was thinking a little different. I was thinking about maybe going across that water to that rivalry over there in Boston. The Red Sox been struggling there for a couple of years now, and to add a name like that, I mean, it could be something special that they might want to add. So, how do you feel about maybe him going across state? Over to Boston, over to Massachusetts, to the rival Red Sox.
Ooh, I don't know if he's built like that. I mean, obviously they're hated rivalries, and I know you mentioned the Mets as well. But if he were to go there, I mean, I know they have the assets, but the question is, do they have the right players that would surround them to put them in a winning situation? It's just something about the Yankees that, when you think about it, it's one of the most storied franchises in all of sports. Yankees, Cowboys, Lakers, Celtics. When it comes to the Red Sox, I just don't see them. I mean, I guess the question would be flipped back to you: do you see a scenario where you can see him wearing the enemy's uniform, even if it would be for an asinine amount of money?
Well, being a guy that was fortunate enough to play, for the Red Sox and the Mets, and knowing the hatred, that you have, we were able to play the Yankees in the World Series, of course, the Subway Series in 2000, and then being a part of the Red Sox in 96 and 97, fighting for the division, every year, being on that team with Clemens. Kevin Kennedy was the manager. Then I had Jimmy Williams one year. There's a lot of hatred there. There is a lot of hatred, but several players have crossed over and did that. Now, is Aaron Judge built that way? I mean, I don't know the guy particularly that well, but I think he's going to want as much money as he can get.
Oh, yeah.
And I would think that, the Red Sox would be a team that could possibly give him that money. But I'm kind of in the favor of what you're saying, that if the Yankees want him and he wants to be a Yankee, they definitely have no problem opening up their checkbook and making sure. It's kind of like Jerry Jones said, for a chance to win a World Series or a Super Bowl, as Jerry Jones said, there's not a check big enough that he wouldn't write. So I think it's a matter if Aaron Judge wants to stay in New York or if he wants to go and get money somewhere else. But as a bet man myself, I would say he's probably going to stay with New York.
Yeah, and one other thing, I know we need to move on, but one other thing, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, for me, it's a scenario to where you look at the amount of money that he could possibly get. I mean, and uh, I mean, what he's getting paid, what 19 million? I mean, that's a bargain deal. But you look at the amount of money that players are getting paid, $300-400 million over a 10-year deal. Now the question is, you see the numbers that he's putting up. He might hit upwards of 62 home runs. I think he's one or two off, if not tied with Babe Ruth as of this moment before the All-Star break, with the amount of home runs that he has so far. So again, I think I think everything is working in his favor. He's got the numbers. I mean, we saw I think just last week where bottom of the ninth inning, he hits a 3-1 he hits a 3-run homer that won the ball game for the Yankees and helped me win a parlay, which I'm very grateful for. So I think everything right now, as long as he doesn't get injured, I think everything works in his favor. And if they can have postseason success where he can lead them to a World Series, I think the fans of the Yankees would burn the stadium down if they let him walk.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Stan, we mentioned the Mets. Stan in the New York East. Bryce Harper got hurt the other day. He broke his thumb. They said the surgery went off, without any complications.
Yep.
But that's going to be a big hit to that lineup. Do you think, this setback is going to expose their lineup a little bit, and set them back where they won't have a chance once he gets back?
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, obviously, him playing for the Phillies and stuff. I think when you look at it, he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, that's a long time, obviously, in baseball. Even though I play a lot of games, but he had a great. I mean, he's having a great season, batting 320. 602 batting line with 21 doubles and 15 home runs. I mean, he's yeah. I mean, you can't replace that type of output if if you're his team. And so yes, they are going to miss him. It will have an effect on their wins and losses. And so, yes, I do believe that his absence will hurt the team in the long run.
It's going to be tough. That's a tough division. It always is. It's very competitive. I think it's definitely gonna hurt them. Now, let's get back to home. I was fortunate enough that I came up a couple weeks ago. Came up to see Patrick. We went up to Paynes Valley, play a little golf and everything. And the day I got there, I met him there at Kauffman Stadium. I think it's still called Kauffman Stadium.
Yeah, Kauffman. Yeah.
And Kansas City, and went to a suite and we watched the Royals play. And at the time, they were struggling pretty hard. But it seems like they're starting to make some changes there. Look like they're going to a more of a youth movement. But I guess the question, what I want to ask you is I got a Texas boy there. I actually played with his father, and he just got moved to shortstop, got hurt, of course, and now he's playing shortstop, making some plays, starting to hit the ball pretty well. What do you think about young Bobby Witt Jr.?
Well, look, I'm a big fan of Bobby. I think he's one of the quote unquote superstars of this Royals team. I mean, for him, being out and being hurt, obviously that's never a good thing for the Royals or for Kansas City. I do want to go back to the fact that you keep coming into town, Pat. And you're not letting me know. We're supposed to be getting together for Gates barbecue and stuff like this. I'm my feelings are starting to get hurt. But when you look at what he's doing, I mean, he's only averaging, he's only got what 20 23 RBIs and 6 home runs. Obviously he's not a power hitter or anything like that. But I think his production for what he's able to do and what he's able to give Kansas City, is vital to the team's success. And granted, they're 27-47, at the moment. And of course they play this weekend against the Detroit Tigers. So we'll get a chance to see what he's able to do. I know against the Tigers, he's only what 3 out of 12, which is 25%. So he doesn't really have a lot of good luck against the Tigers thus far this season.
I don't know about 25%, more like 250. But anyway, as far as you were talking about me coming in town, most of the time when I come in town is a last minute deal. And I must admit, I'm not as big as a fan of Kansas City barbecue as you Kansas Cityans are. I still believe Texas barbecue is a little
That's
bit
fair.
better.
That's fair.
I've been to a couple places. I've been to Gates. I've been to what's the one? 183? What the one that Patrick used to go to all the time? And it's a different kind of taste to the barbecue.
That I don't know, but I don't know if it's Arthur Brown's, because Arthur Brown's is really the only one that has a different taste because of the
Well,
sauce.
it's kind of got a different taste to it, but I'm just not sold on it yet. But I'm growing. I'm growing on it. And then once the season starts, I'd be more. I'll let you know when I'm coming in. Of course, Patrick has done away with the little jet deal, so I don't know how many games I'm going to be.
Man.
How many games I'm going to be at this year? But I'm going to try to make try to make as many as I can as usual. But I'd be remiss not to mention that my Texas Rangers are playing some pretty good baseball right now. Now
They play well against Kansas City.
Yeah, I haven't been up to the new ballpark to catch an actual Rangers game. I actually took a few of my players up there for a showcase type of deal, and the stadium looks awesome, but I haven't actually been to an actual game. But I do know that they're one game under 500, and they're playing pretty good baseball. And there may be a situation where I might pick them to be my team. But that being said, we better take a quick break, pay some of these bills, and we'll be right back on the Big Mahomes Show talking some more sports with my man D. Smith. Well, welcome back to the Big Mahomes Show. Once again, your host, Pat Mahomes, here with Darren Smith. We're going to switch topics. We're going to go straight into football. Hey, the big news everywhere around is Deshaun Watson. He's been on trial now for 3 days. It finally concluded. It's ending. The Browns are in a tough spot. Seems like they didn't do all the due diligence that they said they did. They guaranteed that big contract, fully guaranteed for $230 million. And it looks like the NFL is looking for an unprecedented suspension. The judge there is trying to figure this thing out. Deshaun Watson arguing on his behalf. Of course, the NFL is arguing on his behalf. And, of course, the PA is going to step in and try to do the best they can for the players. What do you think happens in this situation, and what do you think the outcome from the league is going to be?
Pat, I don't know if this may surprise you or not, but I really don't believe that Deshaun gets any games. I don't think he's suspended at all.
Wow.
Yeah. So, look, there's precedents that has been set, and to be quite honest, even though the hearing concluded, there were some notes that was reported from different sources, and look, the Players Association, they said straight up, and this is the point that I was harping on over the last 2-3 weeks on my radio show, is that according to the CBA, the league is to treat the owners to even a higher standard via the personal conduct policy than the players themselves. And the fact that obviously issues with Daniel Snyder, Jerry Jones with the voyeurism, Robert Kraft, with what he did the day of the AFC Championship game when the Patriots knocked off Kansas City, he didn't get punished. That's where they're going. That's where they're going for no suspension, and because it's in black and white, and also the commissioner himself is quoted as saying that owners are held to a higher standard. So it's not like this is hearsay. The commissioner Roger Goodell himself has said, "Now look, according to these sources, the NFL interviewed 12 women who were making allegations against the Browns. 5 of those cases became focal points of the league presentation. Second, the NFL's case included absolutely no evidence that Watson engaged in violence, made threats, applied coercion, or used force with these women. Third, the NFL, of course, they admitted to the punishment that it seeks, but of course, they might be trying to get out ahead of this thing. But the most important part, though, is the fourth part, as I mentioned before, is to the argument that any punishment imposed on Watson must be proportional to the punishment imposed on owners who may have violated the personal conduct policy. The NFL itself admitted that its director of security investigated the allegations of solicitation made against Patriots owner Robert Kraft and that no punishment was imposed. So, based on those points, that's why the Players Association is pushing for no discipline of Deshaun Watson. So this is stuff that the NFL in their 3-day hearing admitted to. So really the question is going to be what the judge decides to do, because she also is having both sides deliver additional briefs. So it might be more information that she's looking for before she makes her decision.
Well, I mean, that's definitely a new hot take. I haven't heard that from anybody about no games. I mean, at minimum, I've heard 8 games. Heard they were looking for a year. So, I mean, that would be wild to see that he didn't get any games. I mean, it's a lot of
But that's my
female.
prediction, so I'm not saying
Yeah,
that.
I get it. I get it. There's a lot of female NFL fans that I think that if something like that did go down, that it's going to be haywire. Now, I'm not saying that he did anything wrong, and you know, being that I play the game, I know how situations are. But I mean, that would be wild to me that if it did go down like that. But to play devil's advocate, say that he does get a suspension. Say he gets, let's say, 6 games, 8 games, whatever he gets. Do you see a situation where Baker Mayfield would come back and be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns as he's serving this suspension, or do you think they move on, go with Brissett, hope he can keep him in there, and then once Deshaun gets back, hopefully they can get back to the playoffs?
Well, you bring up a good question, but also there's additional things. If he's somehow suspended for 4 games, 6 games, 8 games, the Players Association, yes, they would probably accept that. However, because the league is putting out that they want a year, if he's suspended for anything less than a year, the league can actually appeal it, and the final decision will rest with Roger Goodell. So of course he's not going to go against his bosses, which is the owners. And so if he's suspended for less than a year, he can change it. And he can actually make it 2-3 years if he wanted to. So that's the power that he has. So for Deshaun, he's looking for either no games, or if his team and the league can meet in the middle, which is what they've been talking about trying to do, trying to negotiate a settlement. But again, the league is pressing on 1 year. But again, I go back to what I said, all the stuff that they admitted to. Do
Mm-hmm.
you really want to take a chance of him not getting no games whatsoever in the backlash? Now, to your point about Baker Mayfield, I mean, the talent is there. I trust Jacoby Brissett, I guess, a lot more than other people do. I think I'm not saying that Baker's not better talent, overall talent, because he was a number one pick, or he's a number one pick. But I think athletically, you can take it for however you want to. But I think that he can do a lot more at quarterback. And look, he spent a year or two as a starter with the Indianapolis Colts. So it's not like he can't play quarterback, and he can't be that bridge between he and Deshaun Watson. So I think Baker Mayfield, at the end of the day, I don't think he plays another snap for the Browns. Obviously, if Deshaun Watson is found, it doesn't get any games. So yeah, I mean they'll cut ties with Baker Mayfield as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But if he does get games, if he is out for a year, I still think that they will go with Jacoby Brissett at the end of the day, because they feel like if they can get that salary, as well as maybe get a pick or two or a player in return for Baker Mayfield, then that's what they'll do.
Well, that's what I'm thinking too. I kind of feel like his days are in Cleveland. I mean, I saw the sound bite that he had, yesterday and everything, and I know Baker pretty well. I mean, he actually was Patrick's host
Teammate,
when
yeah.
Patrick visited Texas Tech, and treated him very well. And I like the young man. I think he can play. I know he has a chip on his shoulder and everything. But that being said, though, if he's out of there, where's his landing spot? Where is Mr. Mayfield going to be playing football when this season starts?
Well, there's only been two teams obviously that we've all been hearing about, the Seattle Seahawks and the Carolina Panthers. If I'm Baker Mayfield, I think it would be better for him to play in Seattle. One, you don't have to worry about the market and stuff because it's way up there in the Northwest, but also you got Tyler Lockett. You also have DK Metcalf, so you have some weapons up there. In Carolina, not to take anything away from them, but you got a coach that's probably on his last leg. I know he's been there for 2 seasons, but a lot of people are saying that he's going to be gone at the end of this year. So, do you really want to be in a scenario where you got all these quarterbacks? Yeah, I think you got Teddy Bridgewater back out there. You got Sam Darnold, and of course, if Baker ends up there, so now you got three quarterbacks. So you essentially have none. Obviously, if he goes there, you know, Pete Carroll talks a lot about Drew Luck, but there's a reason why they're still trying to put themselves in the conversation with Baker Mayfield because he's obviously not that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree. Once again, I agree with exactly what you're saying. I didn't know Teddy Bridgewater was back there in Carolina, so that's a very interesting scenario too. But last but not least on this football subject, before we go into break, uh, KC Chiefs. Y'all all know I'm a little.
Bias.
I got a little. No, not so much bias. I get a little inside information, but I was able to visit with Patrick a couple times, over the last couple of weeks, and then asked him how things are going. And he's saying everything's going good and everything. What do you feel like? What are your expectations this year for the Kansas City Chiefs? They've hosted four straight, AFC Championship games. They still got Kelsey. They still got Mahomes. Look like the defense is improving a little bit. We're hearing a lot from the camps that they've had about the receivers coming in, bigger receivers, bigger catch radiuses. Juju came in. Sky Moore's been turning it up. The boy from Clemson's supposedly doing his
Justin
thing.
Ross, yeah.
Yeah, he's supposedly doing his thing. So I don't know if you've been able to get a peek at him at all, but what are your expectations for the KC Chiefs this year?
Well, Pat, I've been fortunate enough to be at 95% of the off-season workouts that they've had open to the media. So I think I've been all of them except the last one where Patrick and Andy spoke, and just because I couldn't work-wise, I couldn't get out there. But um, I don't want to talk about records and stuff. I know we'll get to that as the
Mhm.
season gets closer. To see what kind of final moves they make during after the last preseason game when they have the final roster. So we'll talk about that at that time. But uh, now that most of the moves have been made, I do like the fact that what Brett Veach was able to get for Tyreek Hill, and then the moves that were essentially made afterwards with Marquez Valdez Scanlon, obviously Juju Smith-Schuster, obviously the draft picks that they got, and then of course signing Ross as a rookie free agent, and of course McCole Hardman as well. They are definitely going to be a more balanced offense, which is what's going to be dangerous. And I told people that when they made the trade with Tyreek, I think what it did was it put the league on notice, because what happens is that now with the defense that they were facing all last year with that two-eye safety, where you could just sit a defensive set a safety back there and make sure Tyreek doesn't beat you up top. Now you don't know how to defend Kansas City, because you have speed receivers. You also have big receivers that can play inside and play across the middle. So Patrick has different options to where he can throw the ball to. Obviously, with the running back with the Ronald Jones, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the rookie
And
Pacheco. I mean, there's
and McKinnon.
and McKenna, and then of course, obviously Kelsey, being the
Yeah.
safety blanket. There is so much that Patrick can do, and that Andy and Eric Bieniemy have been able to me, granted, you still have to see what these players are going to be doing, because what we've been seeing so far is in shorts. But when they get to training camp and preseason, we'll get a chance to see. We can't forget about Josh Gordon as well. So and Josh Gordon. Having a year in this system and in the offseason working and looking, we've heard nothing, nothing negative about Gordon this offseason. So I think that also helps. And now my question is that it seems like they have so much talent on offense that I don't know. I don't know if they keep everybody on offense because because it becomes a number game as you get closer to the season. So I guess the question would be is who makes the final roster? But whoever it is, I like the way that Kansas City could potentially look. Now, my biggest hope is that players like Sky Moore and Ross, they're not afraid to go across the middle or take a hit. Welcome to the NFL type thing. But obviously, I know that Patrick he's very high on his receivers. And look, some of these players, the Juju Smith-Schuster, he's only on a 1-year deal. They have things that they want to prove. McCole Hardman has something to prove himself going into his contract season. So my question, which is twofold, is what are the players going to do to take that next step to superstardom, but also Patrick, and look, and me, I will praise Patrick, but I also call him to the carpet. My question is for Patrick is as an MVP, as one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the league, can you elevate your receivers to to that next level? Obviously, for their stats, but also to help the team win. And if they can do that, hosting a 5th straight year for the AFC Championship game is not out of question. My only thing is I need him to play a full 60 minutes.
Well, I mean, as from my test and seeing him at Texas Tech and seeing the various receivers that they're coming out there, me myself, I feel like it'd be like clubbing baby seals really for him. He's gonna. I don't think he really cares what number you have on your back. He's going to get you the ball. If you're open, he's going to get you the ball, and you don't know where it may come from, but he's going to get you the ball. But I'm a little confused here because you said that they're only in shorts and you don't know what they're going to do with pads on it. But I was just listening to a podcast last week from Tyreek Hill that was telling me that Tua was more accurate than Patrick. And as far as my knowledge goes, he's only caught passes from Tua in shorts. So, I mean, if he can evaluate talent that quick like that, I just don't understand why a wise veteran and a pro like you can't do the same by looking at practice and seeing him in shorts.
Well, as Allen Iverson said, we talking about practice, and so look. Obviously, you can't hit in these OTAs, because obviously you're not. So according to the CBA, no type of physical activity can take place like that. So again, it's one thing to catch passes when nobody's going to hit you. It's different when you're in the game and you're in practice and somebody trying to bring it because they trying to make the team. That's a whole different thing. And look, and we know Tyreek is trying to sell a podcast. So I'm not going to. Even like Patrick said, I'm not gonna hold that against him. It's
I'm just messing with you. I just thought it was funny. But hey, we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come back. We're gonna talk some basketball, kind of wrap up the show. So stay with us. We'll be right back here on the Big Mahomes Show. Well, we've had two good segments, I believe, here on the Big Mahomes Show. Of course, I'm here once again with my man Darren Smith, and he's hanging out with me today. He's co-hosting and dropping the knowledge as usual. So we're gonna go into basketball a little bit. It's been kind of crazy here the last couple of days. It's going to get a little bit more crazy with players opting out and opting in and requesting trades and all the business that goes on in basketball at this time of year. So players opting in right now. We got Kyrie. I think he opted in with the Nets.
Russell Westbrook.
James Harden, Russell Westbrook.
Well, Harden opted out.
Harden did opt out. Harden opted out. Westbrook opted in.
Yeah.
at 47 million or whatever it is. I mean, to seem like me, it ain't too hard a decision to make.
Exactly.
What exactly goes on with? I mean, why is this a big decision? Everybody knows what the answer is going to be. Besides Harden, granted, he did opt out, but I think Kyrie lost probably what 18, $20 million this year, and for think that he was going to lose another 30 or 40 million, opting out. I mean, that never was a decision. So I mean, with these guys, what are the owners? Well, what do they do with this? How can they combat this at all?
Well, they can't do anything now until the next collective bargaining agreement comes up because you you don't want to be in a situation as we see with Kevin Durant. He signed a 5-year extension last year for 200 and almost $250 million, and 1 year into his deal, he's requesting a trade. Now the Nets are a lot more acquiesced to for Durant than they probably would be for someone else. So the fact that he's got 4 years and $199 million left that's going to go to somebody else, uh, I mean, if I'm the owners, they're not liking it at all. I mean, especially if you look at the Nets put themselves in a situation again. People talking to me, I think a lot of people make excuses for Kyrie Irving because I'm not that big a fan of him, off the court
Me either.
because of what he does, and it's like, I mean, to whom much is given, much is expected, and much is required. And the fact that they're paying you a lot of money, and then you decide to take time off, and you don't show up, and you don't get vaccinated, where everybody else in your team is vaccinated, and you risk, so there's a lot of stuff about him that I'm not too fond of. But to that point, though, as we learned, the Nets are looking to trade Kyrie Irving now. So there are reports from Woj that if by chance Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant still want to play together, that only the Los Angeles Lakers have a package that could actually that they could actually trade for both of those two superstars to put
And
with
what
LeBron
package
James.
would that be? I don't see how that could happen.
It would essentially be Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis because those salaries match, and then perhaps a draft pick or some supplemental players. But essentially, that's what you're looking at. And look, I mean, trust me, if you're the Lakers and you can get off of AD, who's always injured, so to speak, and if he falls down, he's out 5 games. Russell Westbrook, who brings nothing to that team whatsoever, no camaraderie or something. If you can get off of those two contracts and you get Kyrie, now granted, Kyrie Irving's a headache, but he wants to be in LA with the Lakers and with LeBron. And then look, you already know LeBron and KD can play off each other. Look, LeBron will probably play for another 5 years if that's the case. So I can see a scenario where if they wanted to play together, that the Lakers have the assets to do it. However, I know Durant wants to go to either Phoenix or perhaps Miami, but what those teams would have to give up to get him, question is, would it be worth it? So, but Irvin, I think Irvin ends up in LA regardless of what happens with Kevin Durant. Uh, Kimba Walker, I think, is going to take a buyout from the Detroit Pistons. Bradley Beal just signed a
Yeah.
5-year, $251 million to return after opting out, but to return to the Washington Wizards. So instead of him opting in to a $36 million 1-year deal, he opted out, and now he's getting paid $50 million a year for the next 5 years.
And it's crazy. That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't know what the owners are going to do with this. I mean, you mentioned, Kevin Durant, demanding a trade after 1 year. I mean, why do they keep letting that happen? I mean, why won't one owner put his foot down and say, "Hey, dude, you signed the deal, play the deal out." You know,
Well, and I tell you the reason why is because the CBA has it to where the power really lies with the players. If you remember, Kyrie Irving, after the second year that they went to the NBA Finals, or I'm sorry, the third year after that, I think they went to the NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors. That next season, he didn't want to play, and he told the owner, either you trade me or I'm gonna get surgery and I'm gonna be out for the year, and you got to pay me anyway, and I'm just not gonna play. So right now, the onus or the situation is to paralyze with the players. I mean, look at Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons didn't play at all this year. got out of Philadelphia, is in Brooklyn, never played a game in Philadelphia. Now he's going to be there, with no Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, it's gonna
James
be wild.
Harden. Yeah, James Harden end up demanding a trade out of Houston, and what did he do? He ended up gaining like 30 pounds and put himself out of shape and just started really tanking.
Yeah,
And before he ended up with the Nets, and then when he went to the Nets, he was averaging 20, 25 points a game. And then the next year, of course, you got the situation with Kyrie Irving and the whole vaccine stuff. So he's not liking it because he's like, well, look, we may not have wanted to get a vaccine, but we all decided to do it. And then you go do your own thing, and now it's hurting the team play. So I actually don't blame James Harden for going out of Brooklyn because of Kyrie. Because again,
yeah,
Kyrie will make you, turn you into a crazy kind of person. So, at the end of the day, the owners, they really can't do much until the next collective bargaining agreement. When they have to ratify the new one comes to play. And trust and believe, they will not forget about what is taking place.
exactly. Well, I just want to mention the Joker signed a big deal today too, also over there in Denver.
Ooh,
Uh, I don't know the exact numbers right now, but I know he got about 240 something $1 million to sign back with Denver. So that, and then of course we had a couple of trades. We had John Wall going to the Clippers. Guys made more money than anybody ever seen that hasn't played that many basketball but games.
two
But I
years.
actually feel like it's going to be a good fit for him going over there with
Kawhi and Paul George.
Kawhi and Paul George, and hopefully doing some things over there. But yeah, that seems like a good fit to me. Well, I mean, what do you feel about the Clippers? You mean I think they're heading the right way.
I'm gonna be honest. I know a lot of people think that John Wall is like the answer to their prayers, but obviously they went to the conference finals a couple of years ago before they lost to the Phoenix Suns. But I'm just not convinced that the Clippers are that team. Look, I trust Tyronn Lue as a head coach, but Kawhi, he didn't play for a whole year. Nobody expects him to play 82 games this year, so the load management is going to come into play. So I'm not sure how many games between John Wall, Paul George, and Kawhi that they're going to have together. Look, I think it's going to be a scenario just like the Brooklyn Nets when you had James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving. I don't think they're going to get enough games underneath them as a collective unit to where it's going to transfer to postseason success. And
Chemistry, huh?
yeah, chemistry. And to me, that's the biggest thing. I mean, and that's something that if anybody noticed, that's what makes Golden State so devastating because Draymond, Iggy, even though he only played the last few seconds, but Draymond, Steph Curry, and the other light skinned kid, I can't think, Clay Thompson, when it's all said and done, they played together for 8, 9 years. So they know each other like the back of their hand. So they can, so they know where they're going to be at on the court and stuff like that and spacing and a lot of things. And we saw how that translated in the NBA playoffs with them winning another world title.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention DeMonte Murray to the Hawks to go play with Trey Young. We'll see how that turns out. And like I said, I mean, it's just getting started there. I mean, I think the guys got deadlines today, and
Well,
some
no,
of
no. If I'm correct, I think free agency started today. So I
yeah,
guess not. Look, the question
man.
I got for you ain't got no other sons, Pat, that can sign the NBA contract and get
No,
us.
I wish I did. I got one that's going to Brown University that is playing wide receiver. So hopefully he can wet his beak a little bit, and get himself a little bit of money. But no, I got a couple of young daughters that I'm trying to figure it out. Hopefully by the time they get up there, they'll start paying some good money in the WNBA.
Facts.
But they're gonna be definitely gonna be a couple of athletes right there. So. Hey, I just want to thank you once again for coming on the show.
Always, man.
I'm
Always.
uh, I'm always appreciative. I mean, you always been there for me, and
Always will.
I wholeheartedly appreciate everything you do for me, especially when we starting out with this thing and not knowing the in and out about all this stuff. But hey, once again, hey, listeners of the Big Mahomes Show, my man Darren Smith is here. You know where you can find him. If you don't know, I'm gonna let him tell you real quick. And once again, thanks for tuning in. Hey D, tell them where they can find you at.
Anytime, Pat. It's always a pleasure to work with you, and I'm always here for you when you need me. You can find me on KOKC Fox Sports Radio on the weekends at 8 a.m. on Saturdays and 8 p.m. on Sunday nights, and of course you can find me also on Sports Radio 18 WHB on Sunday mornings from 10 to noon. Also, you can find me on Facebook at Darren Smith, and Twitter and Instagram at Darren Smith WHB.
Well, once again, thanks for tuning in. Hey, I'm gonna spare y'all this week. I'm not gonna give you a big Mahomes moment because I don't want to get too mad. I was gonna talk about NIL deals, but I haven't quite made up my opinion on it all yet. So I'm gonna wait for that to next week, and that will definitely be the big Mahomes moment this week. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, subscribe. Go find us. We here. We're getting better. We're getting better and better every week. And we're about to get this thing down. So we want y'all here listening. And thanks for all the support and all the stuff y'all have done. The merch is out. I know you can find it on Instagram under the Big Mahomes Show. You can find it under Silky P, which is my name on Instagram. So check us out. Check us out. See if you like anything, whatever you like. And come on. We're getting it going. And thank y'all once again for tuning in. Thanks, Darren. And this is it for the Big Mahomes Show. Peace.